The airport security officer looked at me and said, "Sir, you need to see what your daughter just did." I was standing there with a small wooden box in my hands, the same box I had protected for 12 years after my wife passed away. I thought I was losing my flight that morning. I never imagined I was about to lose the last piece of the woman I loved because of my own daughter. My name is Daniel Carter, and for most of my life, I believed family was the one thing nobody could take away from you. I was wrong. My daughter Emily was the person I trusted more than anyone. After my wife Sarah died from cancer, Emily was the only family I had left. I watched her grow up, paid for her college, helped her buy her first home, and stood beside her through every difficult moment. I never asked for anything in return. But after Sarah's funeral, there was one thing I refused to let go of: a small wooden box filled with memories. Inside were Sarah's handwritten letters, old photographs, her wedding ring, and the final note she wrote for me before she passed away. That box was not valuable because of money. It was valuable because it was the last place where Sarah's voice still existed. Every night when the house felt too quiet, I would open that box and read her words again. "Daniel, promise me you will keep living. Don't let sadness steal the rest of your life." Those words were the reason I kept going. But Emily never understood. She always said, "Dad, you have to stop living in the past." I would smile and tell her, "Some memories are not the past. Emily, some memories are the people we lost." She never answered. After my retirement, things between us slowly changed. Emily started calling less. She became busy with her career, her friends, and her new lifestyle. Then one day she came to my house with a strange look on her face. "Dad, we need to talk about something." I immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" I asked. She sat across from me and avoided looking into my eyes. "You know that old box Mom's things are in?" My heart tightened. "Yes, why?" She took a deep breath. "I sold it." For a few seconds, I thought I heard her wrong. "What did you say?" "I sold it, Dad." The room suddenly felt silent. "You sold your mother's memories?" Emily looked uncomfortable but not sorry. "Dad, it was just an old box. Someone offered good money for the items inside." I stared at her. "Someone offered money, and you gave them your mother's last memories?" She crossed her arms. "You were never going to use those things. They were just sitting there." That sentence hurt more than anything else. Not because of the box, because my own daughter decided my love for her mother had a price. I stood up slowly and asked the one question I never thought I would ask my child. "How could you do this to me?" Emily looked away. "Dad, you need to move on." Those 4 words broke something inside me. I spent years protecting my family, but that day, I realized I was the only one still protecting the past. I thought the worst part was knowing the box was gone. I was wrong. The next morning, I received a phone call from an unknown number. The man on the other side said something that made my hands shake. "Mr. Carter, I think you need to know what your daughter actually sold." I sat down slowly. "Who are you?" The man's voice became serious. "My name is Robert. I bought the box from your daughter. But there was something inside that she didn't know about." I looked at the empty shelf where Sarah's memories used to be. "What was it?" The man paused. "Something that could change your entire family's future?" And that was the moment I realized my daughter hadn't just sold a box. She had unknowingly handed someone the one thing that could expose the biggest secret our family had ever hidden. Robert's words stayed in my mind all night. Something that could change your entire family's future. I barely slept. My mind kept going back to Emily's face when she told me she sold the box. The sadness in my heart slowly turned into confusion. The next morning I met Robert at a small coffee shop near my house. He placed the wooden box on the table between us. The moment I touched it, my hands started shaking. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. "I thought I would never see this again," I whispered. Robert looked at me carefully. "Mr. Carter, I didn't buy this because of the memories. I bought it because I collect old documents and antiques. But when I opened the box, I found something hidden beneath the bottom layer." He slowly pulled out a small envelope. My name was written on it. But the handwriting wasn't Sarah's. It was my father's. I froze. My father? Robert nodded. I don't think your daughter knew this was there. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was an old legal document and a letter. The document explained that years ago, my father had secretly placed ownership of a small family property into my name, a piece of land that had been in our family for generations. But that wasn't the biggest surprise. The letter explained why. My father knew my younger brother Mark had always been jealous of me. He wrote that Mark once tried to secretly sell the land without permission. My father stopped him and protected the property. The letter ended with one sentence. Daniel, never trust someone who values money more than family. I stared at those words, because suddenly everything made sense. A few months earlier, my daughter Emily had convinced me to sign some papers. She told me they were only for managing my retirement accounts because she wanted to help me. But now I remembered something. Mark had been standing in the room that day, and Emily had avoided answering my questions. I immediately contacted my lawyer, Sarah's old friend Michael. After reviewing the documents, Michael looked at me with a serious expression. Daniel, you need to understand something. What? Your daughter and your brother were not just trying to sell your wife's belongings. He placed another document on the table. They were trying to take control of your assets. My stomach dropped. They weren't careless. They had a plan. The box Emily sold was the one thing they never expected to lose, because hidden inside it was proof that protected me. But the biggest shock came a week later. Emily called me. Dad, we need to talk. Her voice sounded nervous. I met her at a restaurant where she usually made big decisions. She looked different. Not confident like before. Scared. Dad? I made a mistake. I stayed quiet. She continued. I didn't know about the documents inside the box. I looked at her. So you admit you sold it? She lowered her head. Yes. Why, Emily? Her eyes filled with tears. Because Uncle Mark told me you were going to leave everything to charity and that I would have nothing. I felt a deep pain. Not anger. Pain. My own brother lied to you. And you believed him? She started crying. I thought I was protecting my future. I looked at the person sitting in front of me. The little girl I used to carry on my shoulders was gone, but the memory of her was still there. I spent my whole life protecting you, I said quietly. And you were protecting yourself from me? Emily had no answer. A few days later, the truth came out. My lawyer exposed everything. The fake paperwork, the lies, the attempt to control my property. Mark tried to deny everything, but the evidence was too strong. The same plan they created to take my future became the reason they lost everything. The court restored full control of my assets to me. But I didn't celebrate, because winning against strangers is easy. Winning against family hurts. Months passed. I repaired the old house and created a small room for Sarah's memories. Not because I couldn't move on, because I finally understood something. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying love with you while continuing your life. One evening, Emily came to my door. She looked nervous. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. I looked at her for a long time. I forgive you because I don't want anger to control my life. She started crying. But things won't be the same, I nodded. No, they won't. Some wounds leave scars. Some trust takes years to rebuild. But sometimes people have to lose something valuable before they understand what they had. That little wooden box was sold because my daughter thought it was worthless. But in the end, it saved me from losing everything. And it taught all of us the same lesson Sarah once wrote in her final letter. People who love you will protect your memories. People who use you will try to sell them. I kept the box on my shelf for the rest of my life. Not as a reminder of betrayal, but as proof that even when someone takes away what matters most, the truth always finds its way back home.